Hi, everybody. Welcome to this month's episode of Cronins Corner. Thank you for joining us. Today, I am very pleased and excited to be joined by Greg Sheldon, who is the chair of Destination Groton. Every 10 years, the legislature goes through a redistricting process. There's 40 Senate districts in Massachusetts. 1/40th of the population is apportioned into different districts, and we went through that process nearly a year or two ago at this point. And I have the privilege now in my second term to represent Groton in the Massachusetts Senate. One of the things that I've loved about getting to know the town a little bit better is Destination Groton, which Greg, you chair, and is really an incredible organization that is bringing people together and really talking a lot about why Groton is such a special place and how to move the community forward. But in your words, could you tell us all a little bit about Destination Groton?
Sure.
And how it came to be?
Well, it's interesting, the story. 3 years ago, I like to say you meet the nicest people at the dump. A friend of mine and I
Maybe in Groton.
Yes,
yeah, right? Yeah.
Yeah. The transfer station.
That's right.
And a friend of mine and I were talking, and we said, gee, in 2 years, Groton Hill Music is coming to town. And what will it mean for the town, and what are some of the issues, and how do we study it and get ahead of it? And so we took the concept to the Groton Business Association, and they organized a committee, and I was on that committee. And we took a year and a half during COVID to literally research what other destination communities deal with as issues, from traffic to parking to signage and other issues. And we published a report and presented it to the select board. They embraced the recommendations. The first recommendation was actually to hire someone full-time, but the budget won't carry that for now, so they appointed this committee, and I was elected the chair, and we've been meeting weekly for the past year and a half, just trying to get our arms around all of the issues and challenges and opportunities. And I think we're making steady progress.
And in your words, what's the mission of the group today?
Well, the mission is to work with our residents and stakeholders to help promote the many assets that Groton has to offer to come see. And we take into consideration our well-developed conservation lands. Half the town is set aside in conservation, over 130 miles in trails. And we have recently, in the last 10 years, a series of restaurants that have opened that have been quite attractive for fine dining.
That are great. Yeah, yeah, they're really good.
They are good. But the mission is to tell our quintessential New England story and to preserve the town we love into the future. And so that would be our mission.
And so this has really become a public-private partnership in my mind, and you are no newcomer to that professionally in your background. Can you talk a little bit about what you've done before and how maybe your professional and personal experience has complemented your new role?
Well, yeah, I'm originally from New York, grew up in Eastern Long Island, got involved in economic development. I studied political science and economics in college, and got involved politically, locally, with helping some people get elected, and found my way up to Albany, New York, working for the Environmental Conservation Department for a few years.
Which in terms of state government is the big leagues, I think, right?
Yeah.
I drove through Albany a couple of weeks ago
Yeah.
to go up to a wedding in upstate New York, and you're in the Empire State. Like,
you are.
Yeah.
You are, indeed.
And walking through that Capitol building, it's like if these walls could talk, right?
Yeah.
There's been a lot of history and a lot of history makers that have worked in that building.
Yes, and so I a few years advanced, I decided I'd like to get into the economic development, workforce development side, and I went over to the Commerce Department and managed the four divisions of the department, the regional offices, the international office, the minority business office, minority and women's business office, and the small business. And so that was quite extensive, and traveled a great deal, trying to attract industry into the state and trying to maintain the jobs in the state at the same time. So it had a component of investment as well as workforce development. So that
Which is the ball game, right?
It is.
Absolutely.
It is. Our economy continues to advance and evolve, and you need the workforce to join with it, as the international demands are for product and services. So understanding that connection is key.
So returning to Destination Groton, you spoke about how you are so proud of the heritage that Groton has and Groton's legacy. Are there a couple of different stories or people or moments that stick out to you that that you would like everybody to know about, or that the committee has been trying to promote? Because your website tells some great stories,
Yes.
and I have learned a lot from it.
I thank you very much, and I appreciate that, and I encourage people to go to the website, destinationgroton.com, and see for yourself. But we did a lot of work on that last year. And the stories are, Groton was formed in 1655, and back then, Groton was literally America's first frontier. It was only 20, 30 years earlier that Boston had been organized, and Plymouth and so forth. And so there's a trader who went out through the pathways and began trading with indigenous people, and over time organized into what was called Groton Plantation, which is basically much of the current Neshoba Valley region.
Yeah.
It included Shirley and Air.
And the Nashua River is tied so much to the history of our region, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so from the founder, from John Tinker, to we had obviously played a role in the Revolutionary War. 130 Minutemen assembled on the green from the surrounding community, marched off to Concord.
Which is incredible when you really think about it, right? Imagine that march from Groton to Concord.
Yeah. And led by Colonel William Prescott, who went on 2 months later to lead the American forces, the colonial forces, at Bunker Hill.
In Charlestown, right?
In Charlestown.
Yeah.
And I like to say, when you go visit the Bunker Hill Monument today, there's only one statue there, and that's of William Prescott.
Is he credited with the line, "Don't shoot till you see the whites of their eyes"? He's
among a small number.
We can give him credit for that, right?
We attempt to, yes. Absolutely. So he played a major role in the Revolutionary War. Fast forward into the Civil War era, George Boutwell was the governor of Massachusetts. He went on to become Secretary of the first IRS for President Lincoln, and then the first Treasury Secretary under Ulysses S. Grant. Grant actually came and visited him and stayed overnight in his house on Main Street, which is now the History Center in
That's
Groton.
incredible.
So there's a great story there.
What year was that? When Grant was president?
Yeah, I want to say 1867, something like that.
Okay.
But Boutwell was he was a founder of the Republican Party back in those days, and was a staunch abolitionist, a leader. He really helped influence the President Lincoln at the time, during the Civil War, and went on to be a key author of the 14th and 15th Amendment to the Constitution. We're learning more.
Did he serve in Congress?
He did.
During the Civil War? Okay.
He served in Congress and in the Senate, and then as governor. Well, the Senate was after being governor for 2 terms. But so his legacy in the town is remarkable.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to today, we have a story of Marianne Stoddard, who literally helped organize the environmental movement in this country. Back in the 60s, she led the effort to clean up the Nashua River. When
you talk about living legends in north central Massachusetts, to me it's like there is one, and it is her. Yeah.
It is indeed.
Yeah.
And she helped go on to found the the Nashua River Association,
Watershed Association,
Watershed
right?
Association.
And to me, what's incredible too is it's difficult to build enough energy around any issue to get people's attention.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that she deserves the most credit for is collaborating with people like Senator Ted Kennedy,
Yes.
and working at every level of government, local, state, federal. I know that there are mayors in Fitchburg who were totally focused on that as well. But it's really a remarkable legacy too for her to have.
It is indeed, and she really is known internationally,
Yeah.
and has been recognized by the United Nations, and there's this living legend, and her story continues. And so that's a brief high point of some of the people and some of the stories coming out of Groton that are rich in history and rich in outcome.
And you guys still have a great community newspaper too, which I receive every week and I read from front to back every week too. But you're unique as a community in the fact that the Groton Herald does such a great job in telling true local news reporting.
It really is a gem, and it brings civic pride to the fore, because not only are they covering local news, but they have writers like historians like Joshua Vollmer, who every few weeks is producing another wonderful tribute to the history of the town and individuals who helped form the town. And so it's steep in history, and that's part of Groton's legacy.
And one of the most exciting things, as you have mentioned, is Groton Hill Music Center, which is really an international first-class venue.
It really is.
It's a remarkable investment that was made in the town and as a gift to the town. Can you talk about what the project is, the scope of it, and what its initial impact on the community has been?
Well,
So I'm sure there are people watching who are, although it's in our backyard, are still unfamiliar with it.
I would encourage your viewers again to Google their website, Groton Hill Music Center. It's a remarkable story. It began over 35 years ago, literally in the neighborhood where it's located now, on a road called Indian Hill Road. And it was Indian Hill music at the time. And it found its way down to Littleton, because it was growing so quickly it needed more space. And it spent the better part of 30 years performing as a school, an education school, musical school, as well as a performance center. And in the last 5 or 8 years, there's been this major investment by a benefactor to help underwrite the cost of bringing them back to Groton and locating them on a piece of property literally across the street from Indian Hill. And in the process, they've reorganized and changed their name to Groton Hill Music. But it is a remarkable visual and musical experience. Today there are over 35 classes of students attending the school. The performance center, there's a smaller meadow 300-seat theater for performances, and then the 1,000-seat for the orchestra that not this year but in the next year will open up to the back lawn another 1,000. So the capacity will be about 2,000 for some of these performances, and the acoustics in the building are just anyone in the industry is singing the praises of the acoustics in that hall.
Completely state of the art too.
It is,
right?
indeed. Yeah. It's I like to joke, 126,000 square feet of Georgia pine, and there isn't another pine tree in Georgia right now. It's quite remarkable.
But it's really contributed to an arts and culture
legacy
ecosystem and legacy.
Yes.
And how is it a part of kind of the broader arts footprint in Groton right now?
Well, the arts and the culture in Groton go back to the Stagecoach days.
Yeah.
The original, America's original hotel was the Stagecoach Inn in Groton in, I think, 1673.
It's unbelievable, right? Yeah.
And it just burnt down about 10 years ago, and it's been redesigned and reestablished to look very similar to the original. So the Groton Inn today is a brand new facility. But it was built because of the crossroads coming out of Boston up to Canada came through Groton. And from that, a lot of stayover and art started to form, and culture and performances. And so over the years, we've had international artists come to town and do their work in town. And many still live there today. We have Henri Matisse's grandson.
Which is remarkable.
Yeah. And he plays a major role in the community. So as the arts and culture, there's a deep legacy history, but also now with the arrival of Groton Hill Music, a wonderful opportunity going into the future.
And I know I grew up in Lunenburg, and I, to a greater extent even, Groton has transformed a lot in the last 20, 30 years, maybe 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is a different town than the one that existed when I was a young person.
Mm-hmm.
It's changed a lot, both in terms of, you know, any way you measure it.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a tension between the way the town has changed and the people who are coming in to experience the Groton Inn at the
Right.
weddings that
Right.
are occurring every weekend, which is remarkable?
Yes.
And you know, some of the people who loved Groton 30 or 40 years ago, and still today, because it was a rural community that
Yeah.
didn't have all these attractions. Is there a tension there in town?
Yes, I think the reality is that there are those who will say, you know, the town is perfect as it is. What are you trying to do, Destination Groton, to bring
Right.
more people to town? So that's the first issue that we deal with as a committee, and we suggest that no, we're very interested in preserving the beauty and the wonder and the idea of Groton as a special place. We don't want to see overdevelopment. We just are looking at the future as, with the arrival of Groton Hill Music, and given the fact that the fine dining and the weddings have been occurring,
Yeah,
there's an opportunity to leverage this so that it benefits the local taxpayer.
Absolutely.
And the tax rate and so forth. I don't have to tell you, these are challenging times financially for local municipalities.
Mm-hmm.
And Groton among them. We're facing potential issues around Proposition 2.5 and so forth. So to create a revenue stream that is based on meals taxes and room taxes and people coming to town, purchasing, visiting, sightseeing, using our trail network.
It's an opportunity to benefit everybody.
It does.
Right. Yeah.
It does. So that's the message. And the process is understanding through our review of history a sense of renewed civic pride in
Yeah.
what we have as a community, what we need to preserve as a community, but also what we need to celebrate as a community. And that's really what this is all about.
And I think, you know, as you mentioned, about half the town is conservation land.
Yeah.
So there's limited opportunities for, you know, no big box stores are going to be coming in
No.
to Groton anytime
No,
soon,
it's-
right?
The reality is, not to get too technical, but there's only about 2 or 3% of land currently zoned for commercial development.
Yeah.
We're not going to see strip malls, car dealerships, some of the other things.
And so that character of the town is safe.
Safe, in fact, as well, we have an historic district commission,
Mm-hmm.
which the main street is protected and Farmers Row is protected. So you can't get a sign up unless they approve of it.
Yeah.
So no, and we have a very active planning board, does a wonderful job. So the only tension is in the unknown. And part of what we're trying to do is bring the issues to the forefront, say, we can do this.
And as Rumsfeld would say, the unknown unknowns too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those
Yeah.
things you don't know about that you don't know about. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
You mentioned that the town has over 100 miles of trails.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of quality of life or amenities, that is such a draw for young people to come. It makes Groton a place where people want to move or be, to either retire or raise a family. Could you talk about that trail network and how do people access that if they live in Fitchburg or Leominster? How can they learn about those trails and use them?
Well, again, I would encourage you to go to the town website, and the Groton Trails Network has its own website, and so they show you, they lay out all of the details of the 130 plus miles of trails. We discovered during the pandemic that a lot of people were discovering our trails from out of town because of their beauty.
It's like state parks record attendance and people utilizing all the the amenities that they had probably driven by thousands of times before during the pandemic. So maybe a silver lining there from COVID.
But Groton is special in terms of its landscape. It has a very detailed series of drumlin hills that are very rare for this region. So when you look at our main street, there's Gibbet Hill right behind it. And
Groton Hill Music Center is on one?
Yes.
Yep.
In fact, there's an interesting story about Groton Hill Music. They're located on Jay Giles' old farm. So there's a connection to the music there as well. So there are lots of connections, but the beauty of Groton is in its conservation. It still is a farming community. It now has a destination reputation for dining. We think now for the arts and performing arts. So there are lots of reasons to think about how to turn this into a positive so that it helps the town and its resources.
So, one of the things that that you mentioned was the work of the town to mitigate some of the issues with Groton Hill, and that was a concern that the town is going to be flooded with hundreds of cars or thousands of cars, but that really hasn't happened, has it? Yeah.
No, it hasn't.
And it's been a net positive in so many ways.
Yes. Yeah. Typically, their performances are after the traffic of the day,
right?
And so that's a benefit. We're in the midst. We received a grant from the Massachusetts Regional Planning Commission to do an economic and development study of the town, and we're doing traffic counts and traffic studies, and we're trying to come up with mitigating strategies to help alleviate some of the congestion during the twice-a-day commutes and some of the infrastructure issues going into the future.
And you're also using your convening authority to bring stakeholders together to really develop a shared vision. I know there's a conference coming up that I will be at, that I believe Congresswoman Trahan will be at. Could you tell us about that and what your hopes for that event are?
Well, we reached out to the North Central Massachusetts Chamber of Commerce and the Neshoba Valley Chamber of Commerce and asked them to co-host a regional conference that we would produce, and it's November 1st at the Groton Inn. And yes, Congresswoman Trahan is the keynote speaker. We're going to be doing a panel with you and the representative of Senna and Representative Scarsdale. We've got the director of the Mass Office of Travel and Tourism and the new director of the Rural Affairs Office, all speaking about the region, its potential. I mean, tourism in Massachusetts is a $10 billion annual service. $1 billion in local taxes come from tourism, and this region is a hidden gem. Most people, when they think of tourism in Massachusetts, is Boston. There's the North Shore, there's the Cape, there's the Berkshires.
Right.
But this central Massachusetts region is quite a gem, quite beautiful, and Groton is a gateway. I think of
Groton's placement too. Groton is between Lowell and the greater Lowell area and the Twin Cities and Fitchburg and Leominster too. And when you look at the population of Fitchburg and Leominster and you combine them, it's nearly the size of Lowell. So there are these two metropolitan areas.
Gateway cities.
Two gateway cities.
And Groton's right in the middle.
And kind of the glue to bring both of those regions of the state together.
Yes.
Which I think is pretty special, and I know I'll be talking about on November 1st. But
we look forward to that.
What else are you looking forward to with Destination Groton? Where would you like to see the committee, help take the town over the next few years?
Well, I mentioned we're in the midst of doing a serious 10-year vision
Yeah.
based on the economic projections and what the numbers could mean for the town. So we hope to have that published later this fall. Really, the numbers will help help all of us understand the potential and the direction. And we will be working with our town leaders as well as the town residents and stakeholders to try and develop an implementation of that vision. One of the things we've been looking at and studying is the idea of creating a walkable, vibrant downtown. And we're looking into that. There were some studies done 10 years ago for the Station Avenue development guidelines. We think that was a wonderful vision for the future. We'd like to revisit that and bring it to the public's attention.
One of the things that I've really enjoyed working with Peter Cunningham, who's on the select board and is a really effective and great volunteer, is expanding some of the rail trails.
Yes, he
taking
is.
care of the Neshoba River Rail Trail,
Yes.
which needs some love, but we got $600,000 for. And then the Squanicook River Rail Trail connecting Townsend and Groton.
Yes.
I just believe, getting people out and having an amenity like that, it's great because it belongs to everybody, right?
does.
Seniors use it, young families use it, high school kids who are
Yeah.
cross country and training can use it. I mean, it is a true community amenity.
And other communities use it.
And it's a draw, right? It pulls people into
But you can
downtown.
go from Air, and get out, park your car in Air, and you can end up through Groton going to.
And we're trying to
Pepperell.
connect the state. Maybe in my lifetime we'll be able to do
Yeah.
it, but there's a lot of work there to do.
Well, you've been a real leader for us, and I want to take this opportunity to thank you personally and professionally for what you've done to help secure some funding to help the signage and some of the infrastructure. We'd like to put some kiosks and benches and signage around these trails, and we're really grateful for your
And I'm
your
hopeful that
support.
helps people learn more about the trails that are out there and,
Yeah.
and use them more too,
That's right.
and allow the town to, to market itself in a
Yeah.
in
You
more of a
can walk
subtle
down
way.
a trail and there's an eScar. It says, "What's an eScar?" This will tell you what it is.
Yeah.
It's really,
What is an eScar? We need the signs.
It's pretty. That's right.
Yeah.
But
good.
while we still have time, I wanted to present that to you from the committee.
Beautiful.
That's
Okay.
our logo. You can show that to the camera.
It's a good reason to get into politics. The free hats.
Yes, that's right.
Thank you very much. You'll have a place of honor.
Wonderful.
I appreciate it. Well, Greg, thank you so much. Thank you for all your work. I have really loved being able to represent the town of Groton, and it's incredible to see how many things are going on and how many good things and how much positive momentum the community has. But that is due in no small part to you and the group of people who are volunteering and
thank
stepping
you.
up. So thank you
We're
for all you
reaching
do.
out for regional partners, and you're a leader.
And how do people get involved, and how can people help to close out with Destination Groton?
Well, again, I would encourage you to go to the Destination Groton website, destinationgroton.com. You can visit that and see, but stay tuned as we're going to be hosting public forums on this vision plan over the next 2-3 months, and so we will be engaging with the public.
Great. All right.
Wonderful.
You've heard it here. Greg Sheldon from Destination Groton. Go check out destinationgroton.com and check out Groton on a Saturday. It's beautiful. When
Absolutely.
the weather's great in the fall, can't beat it. Thanks, everybody, and see you next month.